Today I'm going to be building myself a repertoire against the first move d4. As you might know, I already have something against e4. If you remember the check defense from the previous video, I have an e4 repertoire myself, which is far from perfect, but I'm working on it right now. But against d4, I don't really have anything exact, and that's what I'm going to fix today. I'll also show how I'm making myself opening repertoires, which you can take as an example. So first, we proceed to the study section on Lichess, go to My Studies, and just create a new study. I already decided that the opening I will study will be the Benoni defense. So the moves are d4, knight f6, c4, and c5. That's everything I know about the Benoni defense for now. And that's exactly the point from which I'm going to be elaborating my repertoire. Then I'm going to play some games and refine it. And the first series of branches will be something I called the capture variation. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's when white takes the pawn on c5. Like, what should I do here? So first I'm looking at this and I can see that white is up a pawn, but the pawn they're up is pretty weak. Like it's a doubled, two doubled pawns, which are pretty difficult to protect. There's no d pawn, and if b4, I have something like a5. And I immediately see a way to win the pawn back with queen to a5 check. Something blocks that check, and I take on c5. That seems like a waste of tempo, and I would not play it. So an alternative is to push the pawn, like e6 or e5. This way, I'm grabbing some space in the center and also attacking the c5 pawn. That looks reasonable. Another reasonable move is knight c6, which develops a knight and doesn't allow white to play b4 and defend the pawn easily. And honestly, I'm not sure what to stick with. Let's say e6. Let's try to find some problems with each move. e6 attacks the pawn. Cannot be easily defended. For example, as I said before, I have a5. But there might be bishop d2. And if I take, he takes with the bishop. Then I have knight c6. And the bishop has to move away. If white tries to defend it with a pawn, I just take and the pawn is pinned. A move like bishop to a3 runs into a different problem. The knight on b1 is just an illusion of protection because rook takes a3, and after knight takes a3 there's queen a5 check, and I pick up the knight. Another possibility is queen to b3, which I'm not sure if it's any good or not, because at the first glance I don't see an exact refutation to this. So firstly I can just take the bishop and say that I have a bishop for a knight, and then the pawn actually becomes even weaker, because it appears like I have queen c7 there. There also might be knight d4, attacking the queen, but I don't see how it benefits me, because just queen c3 looks like it resolves all the problems. And actually, something else I noticed is the fact that taking the bishop is very good, because after that, when queen takes b4, I have knight e4. Attacking the pawn, if white makes any move, I am just winning a tempo on the queen and developing my pieces, and also attacking f2. And if the queen tries to move somewhere, let's say, well, queen d2 and queen c3 is not available, the a file is not available, let's say queen to b3. I have queen a5 check. White cannot block with anything, because I have two attackers on each of those squares, so the king has to move. And then I can take on f2 and win the rook. And also the pawn on c5 is hanging. What other squares does white have here? Queen b2. I can still play queen a5. But then there's knight d2. Okay, let's say knight d2. It looks winning because I'm attacking f2 and I'm also attacking bishop b4 with the threat of the knight. And if queen takes on g7, queen takes d2 is just a checkmate. Another square that white has is this move queen d5. Okay, here at first I thought rook a5, but an even better move is queen f6, attacking f2 and the rook. The rook cannot be saved. It's completely trapped in the corner, so it looks like every single response after knight e4 is just losing. Now, as I said, bishop a3 runs into rook takes a3, and then queen e5 check. And if the bishop moves back, let's say here, I just take the pawn. What if white doesn't get greedy in the opening, doesn't try to save the pawn? Looks like they get a normal development, although bishop e3 is another option. I can still play knight c6. Doesn't get in the way of my plans. Can also play queen c7. Everything looks good here. So this e6 move is supposed to be very good, according to my calculations. I'm not sure about e5 and knight c6. Okay, but what if white doesn't get greedy in the opening? And they don't play b4 or bishop e3. What else can they do? Well, queen d4 doesn't make any sense. Let's say knight f3. I can just recapture the pawn. Can also play knight c6. So I get a relatively normal development there. So now my task is to define the best squares for each of my pieces, split this monolithic chapter into several chapters, and try to perform the same analysis for advancing the pawn and for defending the pawn. So this was my first game against Stockfish level 4. We played the Benoni defense. Stockfish played knight f3. A slightly unprincipled move, because I take, he takes with the queen, knight c6, just a loss of tempo. Then we develop normally, h6 just prevents bishop g5. And now after h4 jumping with the knight, doesn't really threaten anything. I just saw that the square becomes weak, that's why I went knight g4. Then I attack the weak f2 square, e3 defends it, queen f6, a very typical idea for the Benoni defense, applying pressure to the knight and f2. Bishop b2 is a problem, and I saw what I thought was the only move, knight e5. Queen d2 is a blunder. I don't understand this at all. Like, Stockfish thinks that queen c2 and queen e2 were fine. Queen d2 is bad. I don't know why. Then I win a pawn, rook h3, something I didn't see, and I saw that if I went back, the knight would move, and I would have to play queen e7, wasting a lot of tempo. So I went queen c6, castled, and already I'm in a little bit of trouble. Here I have to find f5, and the point is after f5 and f3, I can just pull my knight to f6, and there's no problem, because my knight is actually defended with the rook, and the spin doesn't annoy me that much. Whereas when I play h5, that's wrong, because now my knight is trapped, and if this knight moves anywhere, my knight cannot move. It can move physically, it can move to h6 and h2, but then the problem is this windmill tactic, which wins every pawn, and then my queen. But Stockfish level 4 plays bishop g2. Knight b5 is a blunder because I had to find queen takes g3 and bishop takes e3, winning the queen back, which I didn't find. And now I saw that I cannot take on f2 because rook g1, and the same windmill tactic applies. But I played an even worse move, which is g5. A defense like that is never good, because the dark squares around my king become very weak. And in a move, you can see queen d4 completely obliterates me over here. The only defense is f6, and rook takes h4 just wins the game, because despite I'm up material, sacrifices work here. I noticed that I could not go to g7 because rook would take, and that's a pin. But king g8 succumbs to the same thing. And actually, I had to play king g6 here to defend the pawn physically with my king. King g8 just blunders a mate in a few moves. And that's how I lose my first game. In the second game, Stockfish level 4 plays d5, the best move. I play a theoretical move. Bishop g5 is deemed an inaccuracy. And actually it's a trap. I cannot play bishop e7 because d6. It's kind of a trap. But taking is fine. h6, a pretty unnecessary move. I could have just played g6 and bishop g7. That's what Stockfish usually wants me to do in such positions. I close the position and bishop e7. This is slightly inaccurate, although playable. For some reason, the bot takes on f6 and puts his queen in the center. I don't know what's going on here. I just decide to play knight a6 to create some attack on the queen side. I end up castling short to avoid any danger on the diagonal. Knight d2 is a move I don't understand. And here I thought of playing knight b4, but for some reason I malfunctioned. I thought knight b3 counterattacks my queen and I have to abandon the defense of the knight, although the queen is hanging with a check, so it's not possible. Instead I play rook b8 with ideas of playing b5. Knight b3, I pull my queen back, and now I play b5. So I'm making some progress here. Then I push c4, thinking I have an attack. In reality, I do have an advantage, but it's not that easy to prove. Like, how do you continue an attack from here? I thought of playing b4 to then take with the knight. Didn't see really where it gets me. Also, I drop c4. So instead I played knight c5. And then I ended up opening up the position, which is slightly wrong. According to Stockfish, Stockfish wanted me to prepare the attack with a5 first, which is pretty reasonable. Now a6 is just a waste of time. Rook b8 would of course be crushing because I attack the b pawn. Then I will be attacking the knight. For some reason, I consider this move so that queen can take on a7. And my queen is hanging, but it's actually not that scary, because after queen takes and rook takes, the bishop is actually defended. Instead I played a6, slight slow move, knight b3, and now queen a3. Here I realized that if I take the rook, he's just gonna take my rook, and I'm not winning anything. And instead I had to find, again, rook fb8. But instead I play bishop takes c3, which is a blunder, if and only if white takes the bishop. They do take the bishop, and here again the only move is queen takes b3. Stockfish level 4 blunders. And then I get some counterplay, queen e2 infiltrating into the white's position. Bishop b5 down move, because c4 just blocks everything. Instead, Stockfish level 4 plays this move for some reason, allowing knight to d3, attacking f2 and the queen. Here I miss a checkmate, which is pretty embarrassing. Knight to e1 would have been the fastest checkmate, because I'm blocking the rook's vision and threatening on g2 at the same time. I play knight f4, wrong direction, and then I end up winning by a checkmate. Again, not the fastest one, but acceptable.